I give it 3, 2, 1?
No, it's on.
Okay, all right. Well, hello, I'm Brian Cook. I'm sitting alongside the Armstrong racing team of Adam Armstrong, used to call him a young gun, and the legend, Roy Armstrong, with us here. And we're going to interview them about their racing careers and about some of the equipment that they use. Roy, how did you get started in building engines first off?
Well, I started actually my first year racing at the local Napa store here in Beatrice. There was a gentleman by the name of Roger Sims. He was the machinist, and he did my balancing and boring of my blocks, and he taught me how to build race engines, basically.
How long have you been running Scat Crankshafts?
Well, we actually started probably about 15 years ago. Some of the first ones we ran were what was called stroker cranks. We run 383 motors, and we bought some of those and used them. And then later on, we got hooked up with Smith Machine in Fairbury, Nebraska, and now they do our balancing and boring of our engines, and they also use Scat products. And we started using the what IMCA considers a stock replacement crankshaft. And one of the reasons we use the Scat cranks is because they're easy to you know, everybody sells them, and they work good. And Russ and Brian at Schmidt Machine are very familiar with them, and they've used them for quite a while themselves, and they're very reliable.
Well, you've been racing not years but decades, so obviously you have a lot of ability and knowledge about these. And what are the benefits of running Scat compared to other crankshafts?
Well, basically the reliability of them. You know, you can put a lot of nights on them and not have to worry about it. And when I take the cranks over to get them balanced, which balancing is the most important part of the assembling of the machine, or prepping of it, I guess you should say. And the quality of the crankshaft has a lot to do with the person that's doing the balancing. And Russ and Brian have told me before that, you know, they work good, they balance good, and the specs on them are very good. So they're a lot better than you know, trying to make a stock crank work. And stock cranks are getting hard to find.
Well, you see a lot of products out there that makes a lot of promises to their products, but you know, how have they lived up to the performance and durability Scat promises?
Well, just the simple fact that we've used them for, you know, so long. Like I said, 13 years ago I started using the stroker cranks, and I still have some of the first ones that I used. And their reliability and durability is very good, and they're cost effective with especially what we run now, what they consider the stock replacement crank. It's very affordable for those of us who race claimer motors and in our hobby stock class, and they're very reliable.
Well, I can't call him a young gun anymore because he's been racing for 9 years. He's now in his 20s. But Adam Armstrong, one of the young guns, I'll still call you that because you're younger than I am. You talk about Scat stacks up to other companies for customer service and tech support. What have you learned about that?
Well, anytime we've ever had, you know, a question or like when they, you know, they started helping us out a couple years ago, and you know, the reason they started helping us out is because we're not a big, you know, big company. It's just my dad and I, and you know, and I got my buddy Jake. You know, he's started doing pretty well now, and you know, they saw that we were just a small, you know, not even really an engine shop, but just my dad loves building engines, and you know, they want to help us out, and you know, they love seeing that. You know, they hate the crate, which we do too, but we'll get into that later. But you know, as far as, you know, their support and tech support, if we ever have any questions, they respond right away. You know, they're always open for advice and tech support, and you know, they're always willing to help you out any way possible, and we really appreciate that. It means a lot to have them, you know, on our team. And yeah, I mean, anytime we've ever had a question, they're right there to respond back. So
You've learned a lot from your father, obviously. He's Mr. Knowledge here about race cars and stuff like that. What has he taught you about the engine building process of race cars in comparison to Scat Crankshafts?
well, I haven't exactly stepped foot all the way into that yet. I'm not exactly ready for that yet. I don't want to, especially with the kind of racing that I do, I don't want to build a motor like my first one and have an experimental engine and then go, you know, explode or something. You know, I don't want to have to do that, but I'd like to get, you know, into that. But I always watch him, and you know, I know pretty much everything, you know, about it. But the assembly part, that's he kind of shuts the door and does that at his own thing, and I let him just do it because he's really good at it. But yeah, someday I'd like to get in there and get my feet wet and start building engines too. But you know, we've like I said, last couple of years we've really started using Scat Crankshafts and everything we've got, and you know, the performance of them is outstanding. The quality is outstanding. You know, the only issue that I had is last year I got in a really bad wreck at Columbus. My throttle stuck on me and I hit the wall full throttle. You know, when we tore the motor apart, everything looked just fine. I went down to Texas early this year. I blew a motor, and turns out the crankshaft broke. Well, what happened was it was nothing with Scat Crank, but what happened was when I hit the wall, just the force of the impact actually cracked the crankshaft, and you know, that's the only thing we've ever had, you know, happen with the Scat product. You know, after all the years, like my dad said, you know, 13, 15 years, you know, that's saying something, you know. So, and they're affordable. Last year I ran my stock car and we had to run a chip at 7,400 RPM. That's a lot of RPM for a stock replacement crankshaft. And turn that all night long, all year long, you know, 30 races, 40 races, never have a problem. So, I mean, that says a lot about their products.
We're speaking with Armstrong Racing Team, Roy and Adam Armstrong here. Roy, you've got an Engine Builder of the Year for IMCA and the hobby stocks. That's pretty elite status there for you. More trophies to put on your trophy case there. Do you feel like Scat Crankshafts played a big part in that for you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I got that award basically because of two things, and one was Adam's driving. We accumulated points, or he did, over the year, and that's kind of what had to do with that award. But of course, obviously, the engines had to be reliable, or he wouldn't have had those good finishes. And you know, we had two. I think we had two motors is all that season that he ran pretty much the whole year, and they both were, you know, motors similar to the one I have here, which is just a 350 with the stock replacement crank. And he won the Race of Champions in Boone with that car and that engine, and that made a lot of difference in winning that award.
Well, technology has really increased and really gone up when it comes to race car engines and stuff like that. How is the adaptability of the crankshaft here from Scat comparable to the new technology that is coming in for racing engines?
Well, really, that part hasn't changed a lot. I mean, the crankshafts are on the motors that we have to run, because we're not using the fuel injected engines. We still run the carbureted engines. So the crankshafts are pretty much the same as they've been for quite some time. And we haven't talked a lot about their rods, but you know, they make a lot of affordable different rods also that we use. We use pretty much the same one now the last couple of years, but I've used their rods, several different kinds, or different like 5, 7, and 6-inch rods, varieties over the years, and then never had any failures. That technology on the rods has improved somewhat, maybe not improved, but changed in the last few years, and definitely for the better.
Well, racing, obviously, a very expensive sport. It gets getting more and more expensive to run race cars, and you guys run Claimer engines compared to crate engines. Why?
Well, I mean, that's exactly, you know, the 2011, 2012, you know, I got my dad the Engine Builder of the Year, and that is nationally, in the hobby stock division, nationally, Engine Builder of the Year. I was the highest running claim engine out of, I think IMCA says they usually have, you know, 1,000 drivers that compete in the hobby stocks nationally in a year. So to be able to get that, you know, out of all them guys and be able to win that means a lot. And to be able to say that my dad built that, you know, and while using Scat Crankshafts and Rods, I mean, that's huge. And that was you know, another reason that, you know, Scat saw that and they saw what we were doing, you know, and they, you know, they just want to help us out with that. And but as far as the crate, I can understand, you know, why IMCA, the division we run in, why they would want to bring it in, but it's really starting to put a hurt on the machine shops, because more and more guys every year are going to the crate engine because of the claim itself. The claim, if you get in the top 4 in any race of the year in the feature, you have a chance of getting claimed, which the claim is like $550. And if you refuse it, then you have to sit out for the year. If you say yes to the claim, then you lose your motor for $550. And that's why we are totally against it. I don't understand why they think it's fair. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago I could understand it when the rules were a little more open on the engines, but they've got the rules so tight right now, and to where you can't necessarily spend a lot of money on the motors. I mean, where before you could spend easily $5,000-$6,000 on this engine. We've never done that because we couldn't afford that. The motors that we build, there's no sense though in spending that much money. It's all about the combination. Getting that combination correct, camshaft, carburation, the distributor, the valve, everything. That's what makes these engines run hard. And why should we be punished by giving our motor up for $550 when we've done our homework? That just doesn't make sense to us. You know, he spent hours and hours and hours trying to figure out what's the best combination for these motors, and we have it right now. And it's just unfair to be able to have to just give up our motor because somebody wants our motor, or they don't have the money to buy a good motor, or anymore. It's just a grudge claim, and it's unfair. And I hope Brett Root sees this, and I hope he gives me a call because I want to talk to him about this claim. It just don't make sense to us. And but we love representing these companies like Scat Crankshafts, and it's just, we love it. We love building the car, we love building the motor. It's just, and then when we win, it gives us even more of a great feeling knowing that we built that, and we just totally kicked their ass. I mean, it feels great.
Roy, you've been claimed, you and Adam both been claimed quite a bit. How many motors do you think you have out there that have been claimed that other drivers are using and being successful with?
Well, I don't know. We've been claimed probably 6 or 8 times in the last 4 or 5 years, and I know those motors were probably running last year anyway. I don't know if they've still got them or not, but yeah, like Adam said, it's tough, but that's those are the rules, and right now, and we don't like them, but that's the way it is. And if you're going to race a hobby stock and you're going to build your own engines, that can happen, But because we can build our own engines, that's why it's affordable for us. If I had to have someone else build our engines, we probably couldn't both be racing. But because of that, that's why we do it.
Other than the people who have claimed you and got your engines already in the car, what kind of advice would you give someone shopping for a crankshaft?
Well, they definitely, probably if they're going to have a machine shop build them an engine, they're going to get a Scat anyway. But they can definitely ask for it, and that's definitely the way to go, just for the durability.
What are your plans for the 2014 racing season?
Well, we're going to probably try to continue what we did last year and race Eagle and Beatrice, and maybe go a few specials out of town, but just try to stay local mainly, and just do the best we can. And it keeps me busy with helping Adam and Jake both with their cars and keeping fresh engines around. So, and luckily Adam has got us hooked up with Scat, and that's made a lot of difference on being able to have engines like this one, so that when we need one, it's ready to go.
Adam, what are some of your goals and plans for the 2014 racing season, which you got underway in Texas?
Yep, started the year off really good, got a win, but unfortunately, like I said, we had that engine let go. But like I said, it was nothing to do with the Scat crank, it was just that really bad wreck I had. But as far as the goals, I mean, last year was kind of a trial thing. I tried to move up a class. It was fun, but it was a real struggle, and I just want to get back to my old ways of running good, winning races, and try and go for that engine build of the year again. And we're off to a really good start. Already got a win. So, but if I could get a track championship somewhere, maybe 10, 15 wins, that'd be plenty happy with me.
Armstrong Racing team members. That is Roy Armstrong, the legend, Adam Armstrong, the young gun, and Jake Harms, part of Armstrong Racing team. They'd like to thank Scat Crankshafts for believing in a trio of small-town racers taking competitive, big-time sport. I'm Brian Cook. How was that?
That's good.
Cut?